Christina, how is the team doing? Give me just show of thumbs. Like, are we in the mood for coaching today, or did we just roll out of bed? Where are we at? All right, I got a couple thumbs. I got some cameras hopefully coming on here soon. I want to give you guys just a quick, brief background. I know not all of you are new to coaching, but some of you may be. I want to give you a quick background on me so you guys know who you're talking to. We're going to dive into some content right away. I've had the pleasure to know Nazar for quite some time now, probably since maybe 2015 or so is when I got involved in the coaching organization. I'm one of those coaches that are also a client. There's very few of us, so I'm in the trenches with you guys. I own a Berkshire Hathaway franchise in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I also run a #1 team in Chattanooga. And so our team is about 17 agents, but we sold 504 units last year. And so really, really happy with the production that came from the team. But I've been out of production for about 4 or 5 years now, and have really focused on leadership skills and really focusing on how to challenge our agents to do the best that they can. A lot of people ask me, what did I do before this? I was a kid. I was 18 when I started real estate school and turned 19 in the classes, and haven't turned back since. So this is all I've ever done. So I've had a lot of experience, had the ups and downs, been in production with you guys where you guys are, and been through the recession as it once was, and we're going through a market shift now maybe. So a lot of these skills and tactics we've learned over the years have been very applicable. So a little bit of background on me, but this isn't about me. This is about you guys. And I'm just curious so I can understand my audience here. Nazar asked me to make this more classroom style because there's so many of you, but I still have to get to know a little bit of you guys in a sense to really understand who I'm coaching. Who has been in the business? Show of hands, and I got like 4 more without cameras on, so I hope you guys turn them on. But show of hands, who has been in the business for more than 2 years? And hold them up for me so I can get a good idea. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of you or so. Okay. So a lot of us, most of us have been in the business since COVID, right? And we're going through a lot of changes. Are you guys feeling a shift right now in the market? Getting some head nods right now, right? And I was talking to a team the other day and asked them, I was like, hey guys, what does negotiations mean to you? And I got all these wild answers. And I call them wild because it had nothing to do with actually negotiating. It was more like, you mean like convincing the buyer to give the best offer they possibly can and waive appraisal and waive inspection and give up their firstborn to get the house accepted? And I'm like, imagine a world where you list a house and it sits on the market for 125 days and you're begging agents to get an offer, and you finally do, and it comes in 40,000 below asking, and they want closing cost and they want the moon and the stars, and that's your starting point, and you've got to go from there. It's like, that might be the world that we're headed back into. Maybe not that extreme, but could be. We don't know yet. And so I want to challenge everybody to take their hat off that they've worn through COVID and recognize the market is changing. Therefore, my skill sets have to change. I've got to change the way that I look at things and how I handle things. I think I might have a question here. Shauna, you got a hand raised up. Is that just you're participating, or do you have a question? Nope, she doesn't. Okay, there's a cool little hand up in Shauna's corner, so I don't know what that means. But we got to really think about how we shift coming out of I want to say out of COVID, but through our COVID era into where the market is changing for us. I'm curious from all of you, and feel free to use the chat box. This might be good with so many people of us here. If you were to truly take a step back and judge yourself for a second, do you think that you, over the past, probably your career, have you been operating more of as a concierge to your clients or an advisor? And there's no right or wrong answer here, guys, but I want to kind of get a vibe of where the team is, because, and more than the team, I understand we got 2 locations and a lot going on here, but have we been operating more as a concierge where we say yes to everybody. We'll show them as many houses as they ask for. We'll bend over backwards. You know, who here showed a house on maybe 4th of July, right? Versus an advisor where my clients do what I tell them to do because they trust me. So I've got a couple people in the chat here. We've got both. I'd say a mix of both. We got concierge. Give me some answers, guys, because I really want to get to know all of you as much as I can as a whole. And I'm sure I'll probably get to know some of you on an individual basis as we move on. As those answers are coming in, just show of hands, who's coming to Summit this year? Cool. A handful of us are going to be there. Looking forward to maybe meeting some of you in person too. See Robert Max in the house. Good to see you, Robert. So we've got a mix. We're getting a little bit of both. Got a mix. Got some concierge. Thank you for being honest, because I think a lot of us have been operating as more of a concierge. And so the real question comes down to, how do we get our consumers to trust us like advisors? And I want to start here before we get into some more of routine content that I think is really important and foundational. But with what we're going through right now, I think we really need to take a step back and think, am I acting like a concierge or am I acting like an advisor? And so one of the things that we have to do to get more into the advisor role is be able to talk to our consumers with logic and facts. So I'm going to throw something kind of odd at you here for a second. It's an analogy here, so bear with me. The number 3 most used natural resource in the world is sand. Okay, air's number 1, water's number 2, sand is number 3. Okay, how many of you would believe me if I told you that we are in a global sand shortage? I see like one hand maybe. Okay, seems kind of odd, right? Weird topic. This is a great analogy to even talk with your consumers about, because it's not political, it's not religion, like it's like sand, right? No one really thinks about sand a whole lot. So when you think about sand, if I were to tell you that there were sand mafias across the world, do you think I'm crazy? I see a couple head nods like, what are you talking about, right? So globally, we're in a huge shortage of sand. Sand is used to make a lot of things. You have to have sand to make glass, concrete. Every construction project in some format uses sand. Sand is made in making wine. Sand is made in making toothpaste, believe it or not. There's sand in a lot of random things. So if we think about sand for a second, if I have to try to convince you guys that we're in a sand shortage, I could be a salesperson and just tell you it's important. We use it a lot. That's what everyone says. Or I can prove it to you with logic. Okay, so I'm gonna do a quick little screen share here. I hope everybody can see my screen. Oh, I can't share. Nazar or Christina, can I get the opportunity to share a screen real quick? Let's see. There we go. Okay, cool. Okay, so I'm assuming everybody can see my screen here. So I've just got a couple tabs opened up real quick. The world is in crisis yet again. This time around, it's a sand shortage, most extracted solid material in the world, and the second most used global resource behind water. Sand is an unregulated material used extensively in nearly every construction project on Earth. I may bounce over here. What is it used for? Wine, toothpaste, glass, computer chips, boobs. That's interesting. Cosmetics, paper, paint, plastics, right? There's a lot of things that sand is used in. Here's a video quoting from the UN actually talking about the world faces a sand crisis. I Googled the sand mafia. Just look at some of the news reports at the top. Unaccounted deaths, plague, and sand mining operations in India. Suspected members of the sand mafia trying to attack somebody. Activists harassed by sand mafia. Illegal sand mining goes on. Like, there's a lot going on in this world of sand. So now that I have shown you, here's the kicker in getting people to understand you, which you want them to understand so they can make informed decisions. If you show an article, a video, and quote someone of authority, People are more likely to believe what you have to say. This makes sense, guys? Show a video, an article, and quote someone of authority. I just mentioned there's a video from the UN. In today's world, Google tends to have a form of authority. I'm not trying to get into like politics here. It's hard to believe what you read these days, but on something so simple, like people lean on Google really, really hard. And so one of the questions we're facing, so just time out for a second. Does anybody believe me that we have a sand shortage now? Like, who would have thought there's a sand mafia? Like, I mean, how cool are those guys, right? You know, I mean, can't imagine them like passing out baggies of sand, right? So like, it's a whole different world going on out there. But just with a couple, like within less than a minute, most of you on this call are like, maybe I should look and see if there's a stock ticker for sand. Maybe I should start buying sand because it's going to go up in value, right? It changes the way we think of things by showing a video, an article, and quoting someone of authority. So the two questions that I'm hearing over and over and over and over again right now is probably the same two questions that you guys are hearing right now. What's going to happen with interest rates and what's going to happen with home prices? Can we agree? So how are you proving to the world what you want them to believe about interest rates and housing pricing? I'm actually going to ask just a couple times throughout this call, someone unmute themselves that has a strategy behind this. I'm curious, is anybody, or can we speak on behalf of the team? Does anybody have any thoughts on like, how are we helping people understand what we believe prices may do and what we believe interest rates may do?
Just calling someone now. We don't have anybody brave enough right now.
I see some people leaning in on the computer screen here. Do we got someone?
I'll do it. Showing data and facts from
like
trusted sources.
Keeping Current Matters is a source that we use all the time, and we're pushing that out on emails, we're pushing it out on social, and we're actually using it on our when we meet with clients.
Absolutely. Like facts are gonna win every single time. And Mac, like I'm sitting here thinking, you're saying the right thing, right? And you may be doing that, but as a company as a whole here, we all know that that's the answer, but are we actually doing it? So I would challenge you all to basically create the slide deck on your phone, because very quickly, I'm going to do a quick screen share again here. I'm just going to give you guys a couple little tips. Google's a wonderful thing. You know, we've all seen this chart before right here. Interest rates since 1975. You know, if you show this to someone and you say, hey, do you think interest rates are kind of a good deal right now? They're more likely to lean into what you're saying by showing that, right? There's a larger version of it right there. The house pricing value historically nationwide, you know, you could probably find this in your local market as well. I don't even have to choose on one of these graphs because they're all going up, right? Just showing this data, quoting someone of authority. It could be the local head economics professor at your college. It could be the mayor. It could be your local association of realtors president. There's a lot. Robert said, keeping current matters, right? If all of you are not following Keeping Current Matters, at least on Instagram, you're doing yourself a huge disservice, because every day they pump out content that's just awesome to rip off. So make sure you have your slide deck. Last team I was working with, I was talking about this, and each individual as a project is going to come up with their own slide deck. In their own next meeting, they're all going to present everyone's slides to each other. Here's the link to my video. Here's the slides, and they're going to come up with the team's best slide deck and then put their brand on it. Because if you send this kind of content out to your customers, like if you're literally meeting someone in a house for the first time and they're like, well, they're going to ask this question, what do you think is going to happen in the real estate market over the next couple of years? If you pull out that data and then send it to them, they're likely to send it to someone else, right? And instead of just giving them graphs and data and videos and articles, maybe you should brand that to yourself so that can create a little stickiness for you as well. Does this make sense? So I want to challenge you guys to think, lead with logic. And I want you to also start challenging yourself constantly. Am I acting like an advisor or am I acting like a concierge? Because all the agents out there that act like concierge, I'm a little nervous they're going to get run over in the next 18 months because the consumers are confused right now. Does this make sense, guys? So I kind of want to start with just some theory behind that. Okay. Now I want to shift a little bit. Any questions on that topic? We got an hour today. Okay, so we're 15 minutes in. Everybody know we have an hour? You guys plan for an hour? Okay, cool. The rest of the calls are going to be 30 minutes, but this one's going to be an hour. I wanted to really dive in hard today. So I don't think that this is new to you, but I want to give you my version of it. How many people here honestly know LPMAMA? Show of hands. Really? I'm a little shocked. All right. Okay, we got 2. I see 2 people. Maybe 3 that understand LPMAMA here. We got a second page now too. We got a few more people coming in. So when it comes to LPMAMA, so everybody pull out their notebook. Okay, we're going to take some notes here. This is going to be really important. I want to give you guys my version of it. And if you guys don't already have this, I'm a fan of getting a little bit more expensive book for all your coaching notes. Because if you're using a yellow pad, you're likely going to throw it away at some point in time. So get that nicer book. I just collect them at the Tom Ferry events. I'm that guy that at the end of the event, whoever leaves their books, I'm snatching them up. And so hang on to your notes all in one place because we're going to refer back to these a lot. I'm going to write this down with you guys as well. So let's just write down this concept here of LPMAMAS. I've made it plural for those of you that know LPMAMA. I've put an S on the end of it. Each letter stands for a guide on how we're going to communicate with our clients. Okay, particularly buyers. Okay, so L stands for location. I'm going to spell it LPMAMAS. If you're taking notes, just write it down the sheet. So we got location, followed by price, followed by motivation, followed by agent. Next is mortgage, appointment, and then source. I'll say it one more time. Location, price, motivation, agent, mortgage, appointment, and source. So the first homework assignment I have for all of you is to memorize this inside and out, just the words alone. If you do anything at all, just memorize the words. And I would write it out. You know how like the police officers have the little piece of paper in their pocket and they pull out their notes every single time? When you meet with a customer, every single time, I want to challenge you for the foreseeable future until you internalize this, that I'm going to pull out my little notebook in front of the client and say, hey, I've got a little cheat sheet here just to make sure you and I stay aligned. These are the topics that you and I need to stay aligned on so we can help you accomplish your goals faster than you would without us. Okay. And so I have a tactic to each one of these words here that I want to go over that's going to help your business out tremendously, in my opinion. Okay. So I'm going to say it one more time in case you didn't get your notes down: location, price, motivation, agent, mortgage, appointment, and source. So the tactics, we're going to take these one at a time here. Okay. I want you guys to study these, practice these, and role play these tactics. The first one is location. Location. Okay. I do want to get a feel for you guys here a little bit. I'm going to call a couple names here and someone chime in. I'm just going to look at blocks here. I've got Melanie, Shauna, and Jonelle. Sorry if I'm saying it incorrectly here. Can any of you tell me how you're discovering location from a buyer?
When we're on the phone, I'm going to ask them what areas they're interested in living.
Okay. All right. And
where they're coming from.
Shauna, are you Southern California or Utah?
Southern California.
Okay. If I'm a buyer moving to your location and we're on the phone and you ask me, What part of town do you want to be in? Have you ever received the answer, oh, anywhere in SoCal sounds good to me?
Yes. I
Has-
would then ask them if they would like to be closer to the ocean, if they have any family or friends within the area where they're located. I would ask what's important to them to be by. I would ask them are they coming here for work?
We're digging. We're
where
digging
they
really
work.
hard, aren't we?
Yeah, where would they work? Or school, do they have kids? Or school systems important to them?
Absolutely. So you're going to get in those weeds. There's no doubt about it. And thank you for volunteering, Shauna. What I want to challenge everybody to, here's the tactic I want you to write down, because Shauna's got half of it. Okay. The tactic is pleasure versus pain. Pleasure versus pain. Okay. So make sure you write that down, pleasure versus pain. So generally when we're dealing with location, we may ask somebody, where do you want to be? And I would say at least 50% of the time, you guys are getting so broad of an answer that you really don't know where to go with what they're saying. Can we agree to that sometimes? You're just like, oh, wow, you like California. That's a
Hey,
big.
Doug,
Yes.
I have I think I listened to your podcast with Tom Ferry. And the question is, where do you not want to live?
You're absolutely right. That's the pain question. I'm glad you watched it. That's awesome. So yes, Melanie, that is the next step. We ask people first, where do they want to be? I'm sorry?
It's Melanie and Alicia. We're on
Melanie
two.
and Alicia. Okay, awesome. Awesome, Alicia. I got Melanie's phone, so that helps me.
Yes.
So yes, the pain question is, where do you not want to be? We're going to follow that up with it next, because I don't know about you guys, Chattanooga is not massive, but it's a decent sized city. And I could ask someone, where do you want to be in Chattanooga? And they're like, oh, anywhere near downtown. Well, downtown city center. So we've got 4 different directions to go. Where do we go with that? The follow-up question is there anywhere you do not want to be? And that's when we usually get the answer. It's kind of like going home and asking the significant other, hey, where do you want to eat tonight? Oh, I don't care. And then you're like, okay, how about Chinese? Like, no, I don't want Chinese. I don't want this. I don't want that. You know what I really want is this. You know? And so sometimes the pain question gives us the pleasure answer that we're looking for. Does this make sense? So even if you get a very clear answer to the pleasure question of where do you want to be, I'd still go deeper into that. You know, okay, within that community, is there anywhere you don't want to be? Because we're searching for clarity through LPMAMAS. Okay, so pain versus pleasure, pleasure versus pain. Does that make sense, guys? Any questions? Okay, cool. Let's move on to price. All right, price. So generally, we're asking people when it comes to price, we're one of 2 things. We're like, you know, what's your price range? Some version of that, right? Or sometimes we're leading into mortgage. We're already trying to figure out mortgage before we try to figure out price. And what I think is really important is we stay away from mortgage initially when we're talking about price, which is hard for real estate agents to do. Because we're like, how did you come up to that number? Do you know what the payment's going to be? Are you going to qualify for it? It's really challenging for us to do that. But what's really important in this method of discovery that we're going down is that the client feels heard. Like they want to know that you're listening to what they have to say. So before you attack them and say, there's no way on earth you're going to find something for that price point in this location, or based on what you share with me so far, you're doubting that they're going to qualify for it. So you hit them with the lender, just let them feel heard for a moment. Okay. And so it's important to go down the price conversation without talking about mortgage first. Now, if they bring it up, that's a whole nother animal. Okay. But here's how I like to ask about price. First part of the tactic is discover a range, high and low. So the way to pose this question is, I'm sure you're looking at homes online on many different websites. When you go onto a website, generally speaking, you put a low number in and a high number in. Can you please tell me what are those 2 numbers that you're going to put into that search field so I can be searching the same way? Okay. We need to get a low and a high. I'll give you an analogy real quick. Anytime I hire a new agent on my team, I generally ask them, like most team leaders do, what is your goal for your first 12 months? Was anybody asked that question? What is your goal for the first 12 months or some version of that when you joined on board? Probably so. And the magic number usually turns out to being, 70,000, 80,000, 100 grand, somewhere in that range. I didn't really start to learn a lot about the people we were hiring until I asked them for a range. I said, hey, what's your survival goal, your good life goal, and your dream goal for your first 12 months? All of a sudden, I started hearing, well, my survival goal would be $35,000. My good life goal would be 75, and my dream would be 100 for my first few years. Is it safe to say I learned a lot about that applicant with those three numbers versus just asking them what's your goal and them telling me 100,000? It really helps us understand things. So coming back to you guys talking to your clients, they're searching with the range. Let's ask them with the range because we're going to learn a lot about that. Okay. So let's say, for example, they say we're looking between $300,000 and $400,000. Okay. I don't know what the price points are in the markets you guys are in just yet. What are the average price points? Can someone give me an idea? What's the California and the Utah price points that we're working in?
They're both, I would say both of our markets, not including Robert Max Group, is probably mid-price around 700.
Okay, cool. Congratulations, guys, for living in a place that pays more. That's awesome. I know it costs more, but it's still a lot more fun to cash in a $20,000 check versus a $5,000 check. So, okay. So let's just say they say we're looking between, someone might say between what, 750 and 900, right? Is that kind of reasonable? Yeah, we're kind of looking, if you force a range on them, they might say between 750 and 900. Now, after getting a range, that's part one of the tactic. Part 2 and 3 is I want you to write this down. We're going to go low to create safety and high to create clarity. In this order, by the way, guys, we're going to go low first to create safety, and then we're going to go high to create clarity. Now, here's what I mean by that. If the consumer says, okay, you're forcing a range on me, so I'm going to say I'm searching between 750 and 900. That's helpful. Thank you for sharing that with me. Now, I want to make sure that you and I are aligned on price range as we proceed forward. Because earlier in my career, I made the mistake of taking that for face value and not getting clarity. And I ended up finding out that a client wasn't happy with me because I didn't send them a particular house they fell in love with. Come to find out, it wasn't in the price range they told me. So I just want to set realistic expectations up front and make sure you and I stay on the same page. If anything changes on that price range, will you let me know? And then I will, move from there. And they're going to say, okay. Then I'm going to ask them, this is going to sound a little funny, but hey, can I do you a favor? And they're going to look at you a little funny and say, sure. Okay. Instead of us shopping down to 750, I want to take our price point down to 749,000. And they're still going to look at you kind of funny. And I'm just going to let them know. I know this seems very elementary here, but it may not be. I don't want you to miss out on the best deal because agents a lot of times still list their houses with 9s on the end of them. And I know you would love to trip across a good deal. That's why you said as low as 750. So can we put the bottom at 749? Now, if we time out of the role play here for a second, how do you think the consumer feels when you throw that out there to them?
Like you're looking out for your best interest. Sorry.
Yeah, don't be sorry. Like they feel good, right? They're like, oh, wow, this person's looking out for me. Every other agent I've talked to has told me I have no chance of ever finding anything like that. This person's listening to me. So it's going to create safety. That's why I said we go low first to create safety. Okay. So, hey, can I do you a favor? Let's push our price point down to 749. What I've also learned in this tactic as well is sometimes they'll say, well, I mean, yeah, sure we could, but do you even think there's any chance I'm even going to find anything at 750? And very often it's like, well, it's going to be pretty difficult. Depends on your taste. And sometimes like, you know what, let's just call it 799 instead. That just saves you a whole lot of headache, right? Sometimes they'll push that price up when you challenge it. So we're going to go low to create safety first. Then we're going to go high to create clarity. So, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, it's really important that that we're on the same page on the high side too. And what I don't want to do is be that agent that doesn't send you the house that you wish I had sent you. So you said 900,000 was the top. I just have to ask one time, if I happen to find a house that I thought was perfect for you and it was 925, I just want to know right now up front, do you even want to know about it, or would I be teasing you? And I can't tell you how many times I've created a lot of clarity with that question. Oh yeah, I'd want to know about it. Okay, so should we push the price point up to 925? It just opens up a really good conversation. And then end with, again, if this ever changes, let me know. Just shoot me a text, let me know. So we're going to create a range. We're going to go low to create safety, high to create clarity. Make sense, guys? Any questions at all on price?
I don't have any questions. I just want to say, I think that's a brilliant strategy. You know, we talk about LPMAMA all the time, and it's like, oh, he's going to talk about LPMAMA. I know everything about LPMAMA, but the way you framed that price was great, because I can see myself talking to somebody and saying, oh, you're not going to find that price, you know, and now I'm just like every other agent that didn't listen to him. And even though that price is completely unrealistic, the fact that, you know, we said, hey, can we drop it down $1,000 to make sure you don't miss any opportunities and show them that you're listening, that in itself is probably enough for them to go, this is who I want to work with. And I could see you building instantaneous rapport from that point on. So that was a brilliant tip, man. I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, for sure. And can you guys tell that I'm now framing myself to be their advisor and not their concierge, right? Oh, I'll show you anything. I can open up any door for you. I have the magic key, right? We're positioning ourselves to become the advisor. So that's why I really like the tactics around LPMAMA here. Cool. Any other questions or comments?
I just have a quick comment on that, on the concierge. So we're in the Flex program, and one of our agents got a call from somebody that wanted them to go open up a house on a Sunday on a holiday weekend because they didn't want to bug their agent. So now you're doing this, you're, you know, proving that you're an advisor, not just a door opener. And so you're, you know, you're the one that's going to have them call someone else to open the door. But no, you're providing your worth. You're not just being that door opener. So I think that's super important.
If you guys, and thanks for pointing that out. If you guys follow these tactics, like you truly study and role play them, you will set yourself apart from the rest of the agents out there very quickly, very, very quickly to the consumer, because the consumer does talk to multiple agents. I don't care if they're your best friend, they're going to talk to another agent at some point in time. They're going to say, even like my best friend who did buy a house from me called me up and said, hey, I just spoke to the listing agent because I saw them putting the sign in the yard, and I rolled down my window and I talked to him. And I'm just like, in my mind, I'm like, please don't ever do that again, as we all are, right? Like, please don't ever talk to them, because we're fearful of what could happen. But they're going to talk to other people. So knowing that they're going to talk to other people, let's not get frustrated with them that they do. Let's just stand apart from the others. Does this make sense? Cool. All right, let's go to the next one. So we did location, we did price, motivation. Okay. This one's pretty short and straightforward. Tell me more about that, right? Tell me more about that. And mirroring is really the tactic here. But I want you to open it up, and I'd write this down. I got a little ahead of myself. The tactic I want you to write down is future sell what's going to happen, future sell what's going to happen, followed by tell me more about that, and or mirroring. Now, let me break all this down to you, okay? We often ask clients why they're making a move. Can we agree? Some form of why are you moving, right? Or, you know, are you upsizing, downsizing? just changing locations. Like we ask all sorts of versions of that to try to figure out what's going on. Do you have kids? We pigeonhole them into questions sometimes that may not be the real motivator, but they're giving us answers that are aligned with our questions. I want you to future sell where their head's at, in a sense of, once you make this move, once we find your dream home, what will this have done for you and your family? If they have a family, right? I want you to future sell not why they're leaving where they're at, but I want to future sell how will their life change once they've made their move? Maybe that's a better way to ask it. Because when you future sell, it takes them to a happy place. It takes them to a relieved place. You know, like my wife and I are going through one of the craziest changes in our life right now. We are fostering a 12-year-old boy, and it is miserable living in the house that we're in right now, to the point that I bought a house and we're renovating it and it's twice the size and I need my space, right? Why am I making a move right now? Because I want to shoot myself in the small space that I have. But if someone asks me, what will the new home do for me? I'm going to go to a happy place, right? I'm going to start talking about the good that will come from it. And the way the world works, the way human beings work, sometimes they'll still also talk about their pains, but they're going to volunteer those pains to you versus you prying, right? So we don't want to ever set someone up to lie to us. We all have heard the term buyers are liars and sellers are too. So knowing that, let's not try to ask them questions that they could lie to us. Because if we ever set them up to lie to us, they may love you, but now they're embarrassed that they've lied to you, because now they really need to tell you what's going on. And instead of them coming to you and be like, you know what, I lied to you the first day I met you. I really haven't talked to a lender. I'm really not approved. I really don't have a job. You know, when they're ready to solve the problems, they're embarrassed to come to you. So let's not set them up for a lie. Future sell where they're going. Okay. And whatever they say, we're going to get the surface answer. We're always going to get the surface answer. What we're looking for is that subconscious or the subsurface answer, which you will pull out of them by using the two scenarios of tell me more about that or mirroring. So let's start with tell me more about that first. Okay. That's my favorite line in life. Has anybody ever talked to a customer and just totally zoned out? And you're like, I was thinking about the deal that's falling apart, or I was thinking about dinner tonight, or I was thinking about how much I hate my life right now. And then you're like, and they ask you a question, and you're like, just say, well, tell me more about that. Because they're going to just repeat themselves in a more clear way. Because that's what tell me more about that does, right? So when they're like, well, we're thinking about being in this location. Tell me more about that. Well, we want to be here because of schools or family or whatever it may be, right? We're moving because we just need a larger house. Tell me more about that. Well, my in-laws are moving in. Great. Maybe there's 2 houses that need to be sold now, right? So we're going to learn a lot out of tell me more about that. The other tactic is mirroring. Okay. Mirroring is when you take generally the last word or phrase that they say, and you just mirror it back to them. You repeat it back to them in a slightly different voice intonation. And that's all you say. So if they say, well, I'm really looking for a great kitchen. A great kitchen? And pause. Don't say anything else. Because they're probably going to come back in great detail. Well, yeah, my husband's a chef and it's really important that we have a great kitchen. It's got to be this kind of setup and we need it to look like this. And you're going to start to learn more about the situation, right? Even on something as simple as a great kitchen, it's like, okay, I didn't really learn a whole lot about, we're not going to go search for the best kitchen in today's market, but I learned that the husband's a chef. Oh, where's the husband work at? Because sometimes we're just trying to find ways to build rapport. You know what I mean? So like, so you're going to learn a lot more from mirroring people. Do you think I'm going to get a deal in this market? A deal? Well, yeah. I mean, like, do you think I'm going to actually get below asking price, or am I going to have to go over asking price? Well, tell me more about what you're thinking. Well, and then, they go into wherever they got those thoughts from. So motivation is future sell, followed by tell me more about that and or mirroring. Any questions on this one? Anybody used this tactic before? Is this new to you, or is this like we practice this all the time?
Well, you tell me more about that a lot. And that's how we, build rapport and get the clients to talk. But can you go over the motivation, the wording?
Future selling? Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it Roro?
Yeah,
I'm
Rochelle.
going with Roro. Okay, Rochelle. I started to make sure I was going to say Rochelle, and then as I started to say it, I was like, I hope I'm saying this correctly, and then I saw Roro. Okay, so Roro, once we find your dream home, what is it going to do for you? How's it going to change your life?
I missed. Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Roro, have you moved recently? Or do you plan on moving soon?
I did. I moved about 6 months ago.
Perfect. Perfect. Guys, when we role play, I want you to really put yourself in the role play mentally. Go back to the time that you're moving, or half of us are always looking at moving again anyways. So Roro, if I was your agent 6 months ago, okay, and I asked you this question, what would you really say? Hey, once you and I find this perfect dream home for you, how's it going to change your life?
Oh, wow. It would definitely help me out because I'm looking for a single story. So I want to get rid of stairs and then downsize, less cleaning, and capitalizing on the market, putting some more money in my pocket at the end of the day.
Cool. So you mentioned a lot of things there. Tell me more about that.
Well, my husband and I are, getting close to retirement age. We're not that old, but
All right, I'm going to pause you.
Yeah.
Because I'm not asking you to necessarily share every detail of your life here, although thank you for being vulnerable. Do you guys see where just tell me more about that just opened up a whole new can of worms? That's helpful, right? Oh, there's retirement. There's what's happening in their lives. There's all these things. She told me single level, get rid of stairs, capitalize on the market, and maybe downsize or upsize. I can't remember which one you said. That's why we need to take notes, because agents can't remember anything they just heard. And so we want to be taking notes along the way, right? But it's even better when you're taking notes. When you literally say, is it okay if I take a few notes here so I don't forget? As you're writing these notes down, it's easy to just kind of take a step back and look at your paper and say, tell me a little bit more about that. And they're either going to go deep. She gave me 3 things. She's either going to go deep into the one that's most important, or she's going to really give me the subsurface answer of really why they're moving. Does that help, Roro? Cool. All right, guys. Any questions on motivation? Any more questions on motivation? Is this helpful? Time well spent? Good. Okay. Next one. Agent. Location, price, motivation, agent. Okay. So the tactic here, I don't know if I have this totally summed up in just like a statement of a tactic. So we're going to take a few notes along this one. Okay. The first question I like to ask when it comes to discovering if there's another agent is not asking, do you have an agent? It's okay. So we just met, and I've learned this much about you so far. I also want to I want to skip some steps that you may have already gone through. Tell me about your home search so far, up until before you met me. How have you been searching for homes? Have you seen any homes? Whether you like them or not, do you remember an address or a street or a neighborhood? And what did you think about those houses, whether you like them or not? If you ask them that question, you're going to learn everything you need to know. because it's going to be short and sweet, and it's going to say, oh, we haven't been searching at all. We just got started. We just went on to Zillow and clicked a button, and now I'm talking to you. I'm done discovering if there's an agent or not. Can we all agree to that? Like there's no reason in prying and giving them an opportunity to run away. But if they're like, well, we've been looking on and off for the past year or so, and we've looked at some houses and we've lost out on some offers, or we fell in love with houses, we just didn't have everything together yet, so we weren't able to pull it together. And like, okay, so you said you saw some houses you really liked. Which were those houses, so I can get a good idea of which you like? And they're going to be like, well, it was this house on Banana Street. Okay, all right. And when you looked at that house, what was that experience like? Like, I'm assuming an agent was there. What was that experience like? Is there anything you liked about it or didn't like about it, so I can make sure I give you the service you're looking for? And they're going to go straight into, oh my God, this agent was a nightmare. They showed up late. They tried to push paperwork on me. They put me in a close. Or they're going to be like, oh, you know what? That agent was amazing. I just wore her out, and we just kind of fizzled away because we've made so many offers, and I just feel bad even bugging her. So we're just kind of starting from fresh. Okay. So if you discover that there's no hint of an agent, we're done. Check that box off. We're moving on, right? But if we discover that maybe they have met with an agent before, I'm assuming you guys are members of the Association of Realtors, right? Okay, so we got these ethics we have to follow, these rules we have to follow, right? And so we, at this point, need to ask, have you signed any representation agreement with that agent? Let me take a step back. Insert something in there. Oh, cool. Who's that? Really important we discover who the agent is. Okay, I'm so sorry I skipped that step. So step number 1, tell me how you've been searching for homes. Are there any houses that you've seen? And what did you think about them? And what did you think about the experience? We're discovering their history of home searching before they met us. If they give us a hint of an agent and they start talking about another agent, very nonchalantly, oh, cool, who's that? Not who's the agent that you're working with and what brokerage are they at? Like, just nonchalantly, who's that? Because we all have relationships in this business with other agents. And it could be one of your very good peers in the industry, and you may just want to support them. You may just want to pat them on the back and help them out and get the client back to them. Or they may be somebody that's never sold anything in their life, and you want to pounce all over that client because it's now yours, right? And so we want to first figure out who it is if we can. Then we want to ask, have you signed any representation agreements or anything with them? If they say no, we're still down the path, right? If they say yes, I have signed something with them. Little side note, check with your local association if this is cool or not. It is in my market. The Code of Ethics states that we're not allowed to step on anybody's toes. We all know that, right? If they sign a representation agreement, we can't discuss business with them. But what a lot of people don't recognize is that we are allowed to discuss a future relationship with them. So if that representation agreement that they signed is only good for 3 months or 6 months, you just be very clearly with them and say, hey, I'm great you hired someone. I hope you accomplish your goals with them. I'm a member of the Association of Realtors. We follow a Code of Ethics. I cannot step on their toes and discuss business with you as it applies to the time frame that you're working with that agent. But if the time frame is nearing an end, then I can discuss a future agreement with you. And that gives you a little bit of leeway to have a real discussion and be able to protect yourself. Does that make sense, guys? So double check that with your association, read your Code of Ethics, but I'm pretty sure, I think the Code of Ethics is the same across the whole country. I don't think it varies from state to state. So I'm pretty sure that's good for you, but I want you to verify that, okay? So now if they say that they have an agent, or they've said that's my agent, but they haven't signed anything with them. We run across this all the time. Oh, I've got, Christina just said it a second ago, like they called because they didn't want to bother their agent. The really great follow-up question to this is, okay, your agent is Susie. If I have, and you haven't signed anything with Susie, if I happen to find a property that I think would fit you, maybe even especially an off-market property, should I send that to Susie or should I send that house directly to you? This is a really good closing question here. So like write that down almost verbatim. If I happen to find the perfect property that fits, especially an off-market property, should I send that to Susie or should I send it directly to you? And keep in mind the voice intonation on that. Should I send that to Susie or should I send it directly to you? If you're face-to-face with them, use your finger, point at them, right? When I ask that question, 9 times out of 10, they say, oh, send that directly to me. Right? So we're learning if that veil is pierceable. What's that relationship look like? Can we pierce through it? Because it's not a binding relationship. It's just a handshake relationship at this point, if that. Does this make sense, guys? To take it a step further, one step further. And I like to, when I find something, it's, as you know, the market's still moving quickly. It can move quick. The best way I found is just to text that. And so I'm going to text, I've got your cell phone as this number. Is that correct? And they say, yes, it is. Great. I also find that your spouse probably wants to be included on that text message too. I'm just going to start a little group message in case I find one. What's her number or his number? And capture that other phone number and set up that group text message, even label it. I bought a house and we're remodeling it. Our contractor set up a group text message. The house is on Hanover. It's called Hanover Renovations, like Hanover Reno. So like every time I now want to like reach out to my contractor, I don't text him personally. I text the group. So my wife is in on it and his foreman is in on it. And his wife is in on it because his wife is the designer. So like, I know that no one should skip a beat because I'm going through the proper channel that we established. Does this make sense, guys? Okay, so that was a lot with agent, but any questions? Do we take good notes? All right, is this too much to consume? Do we need to take a break or keep going? Keep rolling, keep rolling. Okay, cool. All right, agent. Mortgage. We're going to be able to finish this because agent and source is really short. Mortgage is a little bit long-winded though, okay? So the tactic for mortgage is stack the cool twice. Stack the cool twice, okay? The first cool, and I said cool, C-O-O-L. The first cool we're going to stack is everything that you do for them. The second cool we're going to stack is everything you know about mortgage. After stacking the cool twice, we're going to try to overwhelm them and give them the opportunity to ask us questions. We're going to likely overwhelm them and give them the opportunity to ask us questions. So I'm going to give you an example of this. First cool we're going to stack. So, Miss Customer, I just want to pause for a second so you understand everything that I'm responsible to do in finding you a house and getting you to the closing table and even after that. Because a lot of consumers out there think that we just open up doors and collect big checks. And as there is some truth to that, we have to earn it. And not all the agents out there earn it. So I want to share with you what we do. Not only are we going to search for the perfect home for you, we're also going to search for off-market properties. And here's how we're going to do it. And then I also want to break down the value of the home, because every time you look at a house, you're looking at it if you love it. I'm looking at it for, can we sell it when you call me and say, I need to sell it? So I'm going to be looking at it through a different filter than you may be. I'm also going to sit down with you, open up my computer and show you how we come up with these values. I want to show you the pros and cons of a specific location. I want to hold your hand through a contract, because I'm never going to put you in a contract that you don't have an out unless you make that decision on your own that you're ready to make that kind of an offer. I'm going to hold your hand through inspections, appraisals. The closing docs can be really scary. We're going to go over that. I want you to know, and you're going to stack your cool. Okay. I'm rambling a little bit here, but you guys know your cools, right? You're going to stack everything you do. And I want you to end on mortgage. And then there's also this piece of mortgage, and we're going to go in the second cool stack. Okay. So the second piece of this that's really important is mortgage. And I want you to know all the things that a lot of consumers ask me and that I can give value on to you if you're interested in it. So like, for example, What's the minimum credit scores? What is debt to income? And what does those ratios need to look like? What are the 3 credit bureaus that are searched, and why is that important? Is the lender, the loan officer, on your side or not? Can you be fully transparent with them? And how does that differ from the underwriter? How is the appraiser chosen? And will the appraisal actually be a true reflection of the value of my home? What's the difference between a government-backed loan and a conventional loan? Should I shop for mortgage insurance, or is that handled for me? And you're going to stack everything you know about mortgage. Okay. I'm not saying you have to be an expert, but I have a feeling most of what I just said, you guys probably know most of the answers to, right? I want you to stack that cool. And the goal is to slightly overwhelm them. And then end with, I know I mentioned a lot here, but specific to the mortgage side of things, what questions might you have, or what gaps could I fill for you so you can make an informed decision moving forward? That's the closing question, and then you have to shut up. Okay? Because one of the things you said, they hung on to in their mind. One of them. And if they say, well, what is the minimum credit scores, and what are the credit bureaus, and how does that work? Are you as excited to throw them in your car and go show them a bunch of houses? You're like, let's talk about this a little bit more, right? But if they say mortgage insurance, well, I was thinking about putting 20% down so I could get out of that PMI, but I didn't know it could be shopped. What does that mean? They just told us they got 20% to put down. It's hard these days to get them always go to our preferred lender. Can you guys agree? It is challenging. So instead of trying to figure out who their lender is and if they're qualified or not, because if they say it's another lender, then you just got to trust them, which is difficult, right? Then ask questions, like tell them all the things you know about and say, what questions might you have, or what gaps might I fill for you? Because whatever they ask you is going to be the telltale for you to decide if you're spending the time with the right person. Does this make sense? My favorite answer when I start talking about mortgage is they cut me off. They're like, oh, we're paying cash. I don't need to know anything about that. I'm like, cool, no problem. Let's keep going, right? So stack the cool twice, slightly overwhelm, and then ask them, what questions might I have, or what gaps might I fill in for you? Does it make sense, guys?
Doug, I got a question.
Yes.
So what if they ask you a question that you don't necessarily have the answer to, or like the specific answer? So if they're like, well, what are the rates right now? Right. I mean, I would probably say in my head, like, that's exactly why we should connect you to a great mortgage, loan officer, so they can actually run your scenario and come up with accurate information. But what would you recommend in a situation like that?
A version of what you said, we're going to assume that they know them, even though they're not going to know them. So for example, Robert, who's your his loan officer? What's his or her first name?
Let's go with Neil.
Neil. Okay. What's Neil's last name?
Anders.
Anders? Okay, Neil Anders. So if you ask me about rates, or you ask something I don't know the answer to, just say, I think that would probably be a really good question for Neil Anders. You know who that is, right?
No, I don't.
Really? I'm shocked. I guess being in real estate, I just assume everybody you're not in real estate. I apologize. Neil is like, he's the guy. Like, everybody in town uses him because he does what he says he's going to do. He's the most competitive, and he's got a team behind him to support him. And listing agents love to see his approval letter because they know he's going to do what he says he's going to do. Unlike the online lender letters that no one ever really knows. And sometimes people miss out on offers because of that. So you should definitely be talking to that guy.
Got it.
And like my lender, his name's Bruce. He's got his own radio show. He's had it for like over 10 years on like the talk radio station that everybody's heard of. And so like anything you can do to build him up. He's on the local news channel. He has like a spotlight that he does all the time, and he does a bunch of ads. You probably heard of Bruce Dodd, right? Oh my gosh, you hadn't heard of Bruce Dodd? He's on the radio. You see him on TV. Like, he's the guy. Everybody uses him. So you want to build it up that way. Like, you don't know who Neil is? That's crazy. Neil's the guy, right? So, and then that is a different setup versus my preferred lender that they're just thinking, oh, you get a kickback on. I need to shop it still. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, I know we're at the hour. I'm going to run over just 2 more minutes and then we're done because we're so close to the end here. Okay. So after mortgage, any questions on mortgage? Any others? That was a good question, Robert. Okay, cool. Next one is appointment. This one's simple. You guys already know this, but I just want to reiterate it. Choice questions with sense of urgency. That's it. Choice questions with sense of urgency. Do not mix up a choice question with a yes or no question. Would you like to see it today or tomorrow? That's a yes or no question. Would you like to see it today? Pause. Or would tomorrow be better? Very clear choice questions. And with sense of urgency, do not forget that the consumer wants it now. So you better be thinking sense of urgency, okay? Simple enough. Any questions? Last one is source. There's 2 tactics to this. Measure it, which your team may do for you. All right, so measure your sources so you can know which you can learn from measurement, right? We all know that. I'm not going to go too deep into that. The second one, though, is love on your source, especially if it's a referral. I'll never forget, some of you guys might know Sharon. You guys know what I'm talking about? I heard Sharon post something, or I saw Sharon post something one day, and some of you might have seen this. He said something along the lines of, I referred an agent, a $14 million client, and yes, I got a referral check out of it, but they never once sent me a thank you note, shot me a text, anything of that nature. They did not show me any appreciation other than a paycheck, and I will never send them a referral again. And we do this so often, we become a turn and burn agent because we just got so many leads coming at us and we're so busy. Don't forget to love on your source, because that is what creates the repeat business that we all want as we mature in this business. So, all right, guys, we're wrapping the hour. Was this helpful? Okay, awesome. This only works, guys, if you actually role play and practice it. Rehearsal is the thing that agents screw up the most on by not doing it. Stop practicing on paychecks. Just want to challenge you. So, any other final thoughts, questions, concerns, hallucinations, as Debbie Holloway would say?
Do you think, Doug, next time we can go into maybe role playing a little bit more with each other and with you, and then also touch more on NLP? Because I can tell you know a lot about it.
I'd be more than happy to do that because I don't want to be the coach that just entertains you. I really would love to get in the weeds on this stuff with you guys. So if you guys will come prepared to the next call saying, I want to role play this, I want to role play this, because we only have 30 minutes on the next call and I don't want to spend 15 minutes of me trying to pull you guys to talk to me. So if you guys come prepared, I love it. I'm just going to say that's the plan. I love it. Sound good, guys?
Thank you, Doug.
All right. Thanks a bunch. Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be your coach. You guys have a great leader. Lots of great leaders I see on this call. So looking forward to the future and seeing a bunch of you guys at Summit. Okay.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks. See ya.
Yeah.